In this episode of the Happy Hustle Podcast, we have on Mr. Jeff Lerner. And Jeff is a 5-time Inc. 5000 CEO with over $100 million in sales to his name. And in this episode, we actually get into the mindset of entrepreneurialism. We talk about his entre formula for creating millionaires. And he's dropped this stat, which was unreal. You are 11 times more likely to become a millionaire if you own your own business. We're going to be diving into this episode of the Happy Hustle Podcast. Do you want blissful balance in your personal and professional life? Great. What's up, guys? My name is Kerry Jack, and I want to help you happy hustle a life you love, one full of passion, purpose, and positive impact. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur, a professional model / actor, a digital marketing specialist, a podcast host, author, a biohacker, an eco-warrior, a martial artist, a hippie cowboy, and a humanitarian. My goal is to educate, inspire, and entertain you to live a life of passion, purpose, and positive impact. It is time to happy hustle your dream reality. Mr. Jeff Lerner, welcome to the Happy Hustle Podcast, my brother. I'm super stoked to rock the mic with you.
So grateful to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, this is going to be a fun one. I mean, you are a serial entrepreneur. You're a musician, you're an author, you're a speaker, you're a husband, you're a dad of 4 kids, but you're a happy hustler, man, through and through. And I'm excited to, just extract your wisdom and all that you've learned along your journey and really share how you've grown your main business, ENTRE Institute, to such a large scale, which is approaching 9 figures, or I think you might have even crossed the 9-figure threshold. So it's really inspiring, your story, especially coming from where you started, which I want to get into. But before we do get into all that good stuff, Jeff, what's something interesting about yourself that not too many people know?
So this is actually something that I just found out about myself last night, actually. So I'm staying I'm in Denver right now on a work trip, and I was just alone in my hotel room last night, and I couldn't sleep, which was really frustrating, by the way, a whole other story. But anyway, so to kill time and just, keep my brain from running too fast, I was watching Ted Lasso. You ever watch that?
Nice.
Yeah. So I was watching that show, Ted Lasso. And in the show, Ted Lasso says, in this episode I watched, he tells the team therapist that his favorite book is The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. And that's my favorite book. That was the book that actually inspired me to drop out of high school and become an entrepreneur. Well, first become a musician and then go down the road that became an entrepreneur. And so that's the fun fact, is that me and Ted Lasso have the same favorite book.
That's hilarious. I mean, great show. You gotta appreciate that writing. I've been in the entertainment world for many years, just 1 foot in now, but I gotta say, great writing for a show like that. It's so evident. So very cool, man. I do want to just kind of mention your journey as a musician, because I think it's an interesting starting place. Like, being a musician, you are an entrepreneur in a sense, right? So you kind of talk about how you were at rock bottom back in 2008. You went through the Great Recession. You were a former professional piano player. You found yourself nursing an injured wrist. You were evicted from your apartment. You were divorced by your wife. You were struggling with depression, owing creditors almost $500,000 and from a failed restaurant venture. And now fast forward, you're 5-time Inc. 5000 CEO with over $100 million in sales to your name, and you're happily remarried. You have so much more going for you now. But there was this dark night of the soul, and I kind of want to just go back to that transition period, if you can. Well, what do you remember most about that dark night of the soul and how you made that pivot?
Man, what do I remember most about it? I mean, it's funny too how memory's impacted over time by the stories we tell ourselves about our memories. So it's fun, now my story has become almost this living thing, this thing that walks with me. And it's such a part of my brand and my message. But if I really if I try to take everything that's happened since out of it and just go right back into it, which I feel like is what you're asking, I would say that I was conflicted, because on the one hand, I believed, and I was around 29 years old. I dropped out of high school at 16 to become ultimately a musician, and then this meandering journey. So that moment at 16 when I dropped out of high school, that was me saying, I want a life less ordinary. I do not want to walk the beaten path. I want the road less traveled, and whatever that looks like, I'm willing to accept. Because I value, and I remember a moment at 16. I know you're asking about rock bottom, which is when I was 29, but it started at 16 with a decision that I choose freedom over money. And everything around me seems like a conscription of people into choosing money over freedom. That's really what life's path is. And call it money, call it survival, call it Maslow's hierarchy, call it climbing the ladder, call it being socially acceptable, call it just dealing with our fears and our existential insecurities. But whatever that thing is that most people are choosing, I'd rather just be free. So I dropped out, became a musician, and accepted whatever came from there. So at 29, I was 13 years into this journey of surrender to whatever the world had for me. And that's based on the belief, we're all self-interested creatures, that underneath it, I believe that whatever it is that most people are going after in the pursuit of money or success or even just security, there's something greater. I mentioned my favorite book was The Fountainhead. The first time I read it was 16. And the protagonist, Howard Rourke, he was searching for something that was greater than commercial success. And that's why all the other architects hated him, because they just wanted to be commercially successful. And he represented their own limiting beliefs, right? And so I was like kind of on this, my own Howard Rourke-esque journey, seeking this thing. And at 29, it was really being mired in trying to figure out, why isn't this why am I not achieving this bliss or this joy, this almost this supernatural experience that I was expecting to have? And I had touched it here and there a few times. And ultimately what I realized is I was the problem. It wasn't anything that was going on around me. It wasn't unfairness or hardship or the Great Recession. It was me. It was my, and this didn't all happen in a moment. It happened through getting involved with some people that helped me see this. But it was the fact that this journey that I was on was all about me and the experience that I wanted to have, even if I wanted a different type of reward, it was still my reward, and what's in it for me, and why isn't the world giving me what I want, and why am I not feeling what I want to feel? I don't think I ever stopped to give 10 seconds of thought to anybody else. And I remember waking up to that and realizing, holy crap, I just spent 13 years trying to have this experience that was no good for anybody but one. And as it turned out, it wasn't really good for me either. And I recognized I needed to change. I needed to actually basically be a better person.
Yeah. Wow. Powerful takeaway, man. I think for me, what I'm hearing, and just to echo the point, like when you get outside of your own personal self-interest and you really focus on that service over self mindset and you truly add value to others, that's when the magic happens. That's when your business flourishes. That's when, your personal relationships, take hold and really become more meaningful. And I totally hear you. I largely related to your journey. I was very focused on ego, profit, success, just like status, like all these main drivers that society deems important with my tech company and the previous startups prior. And even when I achieved those things, I realized, man, I'm still unfulfilled. This isn't like what it's all about. Like when you actually, have someone else's interests higher than your own, you actually are far more fulfilled. Like Tony Robbins talks about, right? The secret to living is giving. So I'm curious for you, when you made that mindset shift, how did it actually manifest in your actions?
Yeah. So, and to be clear, again, hindsight is reductionist, right? We see things in sort of black and white resolution, and time gets really I think we misinterpret time in hindsight because it didn't, like I said, it didn't happen in a moment. It was like, it was more of it, the first step of achieving clarity is to accept that you lack clarity. And so it really began with just with like, again, it was like a resurrendering. It was like I was 16 again going, I don't know what the future holds, but I need to make some decisions. I need to decide on some first principles that I'm going to operate from. And I need to accept that whatever they've been up to this point, they haven't gotten me to the place where I'm really of much value to myself or others. And so I need to maybe install some new principles. And that's all I knew was I need a new foundation, right? But you ask how it manifested. It manifested clumsily and a day at a time. And it was like, I got in, to put some definition around this, I discovered the world of digital marketing or digital entrepreneurship. And this was late 2008. And I'd been doing brick and mortar entrepreneurship up to that point. I'd been a pianist, but I'd also tried starting multiple service businesses, but they were all like more what we would consider remnants of the physical economy. It was like a restaurant or a marketing agency, although marketing agency then means something very different than what it means now. And I tried all this stuff, and so then I discovered I was up late one night, like Googling things like what to do when your life sucks, or how to make more money, or I was just at rock bottom, right? Whatever you Google when you're at rock bottom. How long can a whale hold its breath? Like just random stuff. And so I stumbled into this world of digital marketers, and it was like 2008. You had guys like Frank Kern and John Reese, and this was Ryan Dice, pre-digital marketer. There was like all these guys that were like these maverick kind of renegade entrepreneurs that would like make $1 million in 24 hours launching a product on the internet. And it sounded like bizarre almost, right? Like it's sort of normalized now, but this was 14 years ago. And, but anyway, I signed up for this training platform that teaches people how to do affiliate marketing. It's not around anymore, but there were actually some really amazing people in that platform. And a lot of them had come from had a lot of experience in personal development. And that was my first real exposure to personal development. And I think there's two kinds of ways that people get exposed to personal development. And I use the term real exposure because I think people get exposed to personal development, especially a lot nowadays, where they'll see like these quote cards or these memes or these platitudes or aphorisms. You see it, they're all in our feed, right? Success is a journey, not a destination, or like whatever, right? And we see it, we get a little hit of something that feels kind of good, and we go, oh yeah, I'm doing personal development because it's like I took my Advil for the day or something. That's not real personal development. Real personal development is like, I told somebody yesterday that like, to make a unicorn, you have to mate like a dinosaur and a horse. Something with a horn, like with a spike, and then like a horse, and you mate them and you produce a unicorn. Everybody wants a unicorn, but nobody wants to watch a dinosaur have sex with a horse, right? Not that actually happened.
Well, there might be some people out there who want to watch that. I don't know.
That's true. Yeah, the internet, there's all kinds of it. But my point is, success is cooked in a messy kitchen, as they say. And the unicorn is a product of a brutal ritual, a brutal mating ritual. I mean, again, I've contrived this metaphor to make my point. But like, so at the time, like real personal development is hard and it hurts. And I had to be at that rock bottom for the scabs to all be ripped off and the nerves to be raw enough to really look at, why did my second marriage fail? Why am I broke? Why am I hiding from creditors? Why am I in so much debt that now that I'm learning how to market products on the internet, I've changed the spelling of my last name from Lerner to Lerner with an A. I added an A because I was in so much debt. I was afraid that if anybody found me, any money I made, they would come take it. Like, how the hell did I get here? And what do I have to be honest with myself about? And again, that's where it was this process of saying like, okay, I've really just been very self-focused up to this point. But like, you don't know how to replace it with something else. They don't teach you in school. There's no class in school called healthy selflessness or reciprocity or value innovation or value create. I mean, these are what they should be teaching in school, but they don't. And so when you recognize that what they did teach you how to do and who to be in school isn't getting you where you want to go, it just kind of rips you open, and you got to start filling it. You got to start experimenting. And I think my experimentation showed me, iteratively through trial and error, that like every time I listened to that little voice, or that little, it wasn't a voice, it was like a light. It was like a flicker of like, just do the right thing. Just do it because it's the right thing. Shut up. Stop. Don't overthink it. Just do it because it's the right thing. And every time I would start to heed that, against all sorts of resistance, by the way, I'm not saying that like it came naturally to me at all, but when I say do the right thing, that's a cliche. It was like, just serve, just give without expectation, And every time I did it, like, things got a little better. And but real, I mean, I'm being honest, it took 10 years to get good at it. My whole decade in my 30s was getting a little less good at being selfish and a little more good at being less selfish. It was my whole 30s.
Wow. I mean, again, just powerful takeaways. I gotta kind of hit the point that really stuck with me was that reciprocity and healthy selflessness. Like those, we wish those were taught in school, right? But those are like universal truths and laws, will you, that if you learn those can blow your mind and also just expedite your success. And I just want to really stay here for a sec for all the happy hustlers out there listening who maybe are in a dark place. Maybe they're not where they want to be. Maybe their bank account doesn't reflect the number that they desire, right? You hear Jeff's story. Like what he first did was take a hard look at himself. He did some real self-assessment. And I believe in order to change, you have to actually know in order to grow, right? Like you have to have that assessment. And you started to look at yourself. You started to take accountability, which is huge. I think not enough people take accountability. I'm curious, Jeff, if you had to tell someone right now in your own words, like that message that you needed to hear back then to take accountability, maybe it's a hard message, but what would you say to someone who maybe is living in that victim mentality and hasn't taken full accountability?
I tweeted it this morning, actually. Let me pull it up.
Nice. Yeah, pull it up.
I woke up this morning.
That's what a coincidence.
I had a thought and I tweeted it. It says right here, we should never forget that our best life is somewhere out there waiting to meet the best version of us and be convinced that is who we've become. And the hard thing about it, and like I was really intentional about that, how I worded that. Our best life, everybody, hashtag living my best life, what everybody wants their best life. Your best life's out there. It's waiting on you to be your best self. But when you meet it, it's an impeccable judge of character, and it will suffer no imposter. And you cannot trick your best life into thinking that you've become your best self because you had a good day, or because you're motivated to be kind that day.
I am so excited to share with you the latest Montana Mastermind Epic Adventure. Now, I will say, due to many requests, we are doing a winter edition of the Montana Mastermind Epic Adventures. This means if you want to come skiing and snowboarding in Montana this upcoming March 2023, you can apply to come and kick it with me in person, shred some pow, and just be around a like-minded, happy, hustling, badass entrepreneurs who are all making over six figures, who are heart-centered, and who actually care about infusing passion, purpose, and a positive impact into their daily existence. We have so many cool things lined up. In addition to just skiing and snowboarding on amazing mountain Montana runs, we are going to be soaking at thermal hot springs. We are going to be doing some ice fishing and hiking and campfires and all sorts of cool activities. We're staying at a mountain mansion that is absolutely stunning. We have a professional chef who's going to be cooking up delicious, just amazing meals. And we have business masterminding going on where we're going to just work through your adversities and your challenges, as well as share other people's wins and your wins so that we can all learn from the collective wisdom, just having fun, mixing business with pleasure, all in the beautiful Montana wilderness. I got to say, I love me some masterminds, and this one is going to be epic. So if you want in, apply today at carriejack.com/Montana. And I will say, spots are very limited. We cannot take very many people in this winter edition. It's already got a lot of interest and a lot of people signed up. And it's going to be a small, intimate gathering. So if you want in, jump on it before 2023 ends, or before 2023 starts, rather. So jump on it, carriejack.com/Montana. And I hope to see you on the slopes in Montana soon. Peace and love, y'all. Let's get back to this episode.
It wants to see it. I think that the universe or karma or God or your best life or whatever you want to think of as this cosmic reward system, I think it probably, my experience in working with a lot of other people tells me that it probably wants about a 10-year track record before it's open to being convinced. Like if it can see you put together 10 years, 3,652 days, maybe 3, depending on how the leap years fall, in a row of not being a piece of shit, then it might invite you in.
Yeah, it's that consistency. I always love the term persistent consistency. Zig Ziglar, one of my digital mentors, coined it, and I love Zig, and I met his son Tom, and just I would listen to Audio U everywhere I went, just when I was a young buck, just on the hustle, before I was happy hustling, just hustling. And it just, that stuck with me. You have to be consistent, you have to be persistent through what adversity strikes. And I think you're playing the long game ultimately.
Yeah, and let me double click on something I just said. First of all, I apologize for using profanity on your podcast. I should have checked that out.
Oh, you're good, man.
I'm sort of by nature, I'm kind of a degenerate, so it shows in my language.
You're good, brother.
When I say 10 years of not being a POS, as humans, we are this ball of there's a tension that we juggle all the time. Freud called it the id and the superego, and the ego moderates in between. We all know, Jung called it the shadow, our shadow self, our doppelganger. We all have a darkness. And the trick of the darkness is that it is so good at finding socially acceptable ways to express. Like a lot of people in their daily life, if they really boil all the water out of their pan and say, like, what am I after? And then they're willing to ask the follow-up question, you realize, like, we are just this tension, this tug between light and dark impulses, right? Like let's use, if you say, why do I want, and it's really never obvious in what a person's doing, because you can't see motivation. You can't see which force is driving or compelling a person. For example, why is Elon Musk doing what he's doing at Twitter right now? There's one person on earth, there could possibly be one person on earth that knows the answer to that, and his name's Elon Musk. But even he only knows the answer if he's asked questions that are very easy to go your whole life without asking. Like, what do I want from this? And what will that get for me? And why do I want that thing? And what will, it's just the depth of, and so when I say not be a POS for 10 years, I mean, have had the discipline and the willingness over a 10-year stretch to consistently challenge our deeper motivations for why we do what we do and hold ourselves to a standard over a protracted period of time, where ultimately, and the reason I say it takes 10 years, you know, there's a concept in psychology about like killing your clone or killing off your alter ego. I don't think we ever kill it, that shadow self, but we can starve it. But it's hard, and there's suffering, and it shows up as care, when caring about other people. But if you actually go Google the etymology of the word care, it means to grieve or to suffer. Truly caring about other human beings is hard. And doing it for a day doesn't qualify you for much, because most of us will be guilty enough or ashamed enough for a day at some point in our life to be different. But if you can hold it for years and years and years, this is why people have to go to monasteries. This is why people have to go live alone in the woods. We live in a society that has all these material rewards for a lot of behaviors that can, not always, but can very often be driven by, you know, imperfect or dark motivations. And for a lot of us, we have to die to the world. This is why even in the Bible, they say, die to the world. Since you died to the world, why, as though you still belong to it, do you submit to its rules? That's Colossians 2:20. It's my favorite verse in the Bible. Like, this is hard stuff. And entrepreneurs get caught up in the tactics and the mechanics and the payoff and the like, well, what was Tai Lopez's marketing strategy in 2012? And how do I recreate that for myself today? No, we don't know what he was going through. We don't know what Richard Branson was going through. But I guarantee you, the person that you're looking at as your avatar for success, they suffered in ways you'll never understand, but you have to deeply desire to. In your own terms, you have to say, I want to suffer enough to be worthy of the success that I'm after. And people just don't want to have this conversation. And that's why 99% of entrepreneurs run around like chickens with their heads cut off.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it is a really interesting point.
It's not just
like
entrepreneurs,
thinking about.
Sorry to interrupt. It's not just entrepreneurs.
No, yeah, I hear you. But really, anyone who achieves anything great, right, has to have suffering part of the equation, in my opinion, or at least adversity, right? You don't see people who have created something of meaning.
It's suffering. I'm not going to let you back off that word. I want your audience to hear it.
Okay.
Let's. If you want to be worthy of what you want, you need to suffer. The word suffer means subfere, to be underneath, to bear the weight from underneath of the burden of killing off yourself so that you can have what you want. I'm not going to let us pull that punch at all.
Okay. Hey, I'm about it. I've had plenty of suffering,
But happiness is the end state. It's not the process.
Oh no, man. I mean, the happy hustle for me included plenty of suffering, and still, I do focus on everyday joy and fulfillment, but that doesn't mean everything I do is easy or simple. There's suffering, there's pain, and I think one thing that a lot of entrepreneurs really, I don't think it gets talked about enough, is like that inner self-critic of doubt. That inner self-critic of doubt that really like second guesses your trajectory. Can I do this? Am I worthy? Is this even possible? Like that internal conversation is something that when you can overcome that internal dialogue and tell yourself a different story, release those shackles of, self-limiting beliefs, then I also feel like you can really start to step into your full power. And speaking of your full power, Jeff, I do want to pivot into what you're doing right now with ENTRE Institute, because, I mean, you're doing something quite remarkable. It's the world's first, and I want to get this right, Institute of Higher Learning for Entrepreneurs, which is now one of the fastest growing educational technology companies in the world. So it's like you've put in the suffering, right? And now you're reaping the reward. And so I'm sure there's still suffering, right? Like you're still growing, you're scaling. But talk to us about ENTRE Institute and what was the genesis of this business?
I mean, honestly, it's what we're talking about. It was, so I was 39 and I had reached a point where entrepreneurship had given me some material rewards. I had just sold a digital marketing agency, and I was kind of at this point where I sort of recommitted to the idea of freedom over money as my primary currency. But I have a completely different definition of freedom now, which is a lot more akin to freedom through discipline, freedom through surrender, freedom through strict adherence to first principles. Like, it's funny, you use that term fulfillment. I think everybody wants it, but the thing that people misunderstand about it is you don't get to choose what fulfills you. You surrender to what fulfills you. The word fulfillment, I'm kind of a word nerd. Forgive me. You just have to sort of endure it. It's like there's like a meta layer underneath our language of what the words really mean. And I've become obsessed with knowing what we're really saying when we're saying. And I think a lot of people, like if you ask them what the word means, they just give you a synonym. They don't give you an origin. The word fulfillment comes from the Old English word fulfillon, which means prophecy. Like fulfillment of prophecy. You don't get to choose what you're destined for. You don't get to choose what fulfills you. You seek it, you find it, and you surrender to it. And so at 39 years old, 2018, I was at this place where I realized, like, entrepreneurship, it's given me a decent amount of material success. I live comfortably in an upper middle class neighborhood, and unlike my neighbors, I don't have to go to work every day. I sold my agency, and my kids are taken care of. Like, I was good. But what entrepreneurship had given me more than that was like almost a spiritual reckoning. It was an arrival to a place where I felt like here I was at almost 40, what most people consider the midway point of life, and what I consider the third way point, because living to 120 is easy if you just make the right choices and don't get in an accident. But I'd reached this point where I realized what entrepreneurship had really given me was it had given me a sense of the peace that comes from surrender. And so I looked back on my life and my journey, and from that rock bottom moment that you talked about at 29, 2008, to now 39, 2018. And over the last decade, I basically proved every guidance counselor in America wrong. Because I dropped out of high school, I became a jazz musician, I did not pursue money, I did not pursue material comfort, I didn't even really pursue security. I pursued this sort of the artistic, creative expression of life, first through music, then through entrepreneurship. And then I pursued service, and I pursued sacrifice, and I pursued surrender. And to a certain degree, I pursued suffering. And how come at 39 years old, I'm the one who's retired? And all my neighbors still have to go to work every day and make somebody else rich, right? And it hit me what entrepreneurship really is. Entrepreneurship is the crucible in which we can strip away enough of the trappings of, call it the employment model, the life by checking of boxes, school, check, college degree, check, good job, check, 2-car garage, check. Like, we strip away enough of that when we become, and I never really differentiated that being a jazz musician and being an entrepreneur were almost identical. It was just different canvases to create on. And I realized that in that, I had been forced into sort of becoming the person that I wanted to become and validating, you mentioned Zig, this idea that when you start doing for others, the world does for you. And that's why I had what appeared externally to be a pretty good life too. But finally, for the first time, I felt like internally I had the life I wanted. It wasn't about what I had. It was about who I had become. And so I was like, I realized these are kind of crazy ideas to some people, I guess maybe not to everyone, but I'm not like, how do I start teaching this? How do I start teaching entrepreneurship for what it is? How do I reclaim it and get it back to its roots. It is not the cover of Fast Company magazine. It is not the next billion-dollar tech startup. It is not, scoring lots of babes. It is this stoic, almost like Buddhist-like journey in which we seek truth and find ourselves if we are committed to the process. And but also now I know that the splendor that comes from reciprocity. I want to go have a value exchange with millions of people, but I refuse to compromise at this point about what that value exchange is going to be about. It's going to be about the truth that I've discovered. And so I realized, okay, entrepreneurship is this crucible in which we can forge ourselves, but that's hard to sell. That's hard to invite people into. There's a journey of awakening for people to be ready to have that conversation. And in your case, here on this podcast, you have an audience of people that are already in the entrepreneurial game. So depending on where they are, there's hopefully some amount of what I'm saying that they'll be able to hook into based on their own experience. But if you're going to go out to the mass public and say, hey, come discover the wonders of entrepreneurship so that you can suffer for a decade and find yourself. Good luck, right? Good luck getting that capture page to convert, right?
Yeah, right.
And so I realized, okay, I basically have to Trojan horse my way inside of people's walls. And this is marketing in a nutshell, is how do I find the convergence of what I believe people deeply need and what it is that I believe I'm great at, but that meets them where they are and connects to what they want based on where they're at. Entrepreneurship, in addition to being this unique crucible in which to forge ourselves, it also has this unique duality of having this shiny wrapping paper that people are like, yeah, I want that. Because what they really want is what they see people that have been through it have on the other side of it. And so I'm like, okay, I'll meet people where they're at. And I started putting out ads that are like, look, you've probably heard about entrepreneurship. There's, all these new, despite what the media has to say about how terrible the world is, there's like 1,700 new millionaires created every single day just in the United States, over 4,000 around the world. Have you asked yourself where they're coming from? Are these MBAs? Are these doctors? Are these lawyers? Did you know that statistically, you're 11 times more likely to become a millionaire owning your own business? 4% of all employees will ever achieve $1 million net worth. 45%, 11 times as many business owners will achieve a net worth of $1 million or more. You want to be a millionaire? You want to be able to retire someday? Your best bet is owning your own business. Come learn how. And that's how it started. And 4 years later, we've enrolled 270,000 students. We've done almost $150 million in revenue. Ironically, although perhaps not surprisingly, it's become by far my most successful venture in entrepreneurship. Because I started it not giving really two shits about making any money with it. I just wanted to find a way to speak the truth in a way people would listen to. And there you have it. It validates the principle all over again.
Wow. I love it, man. Powerful mic drop moments in there, man. Come on. That's some hot fire on the mic today, Happy Hustlers. I hope you guys are appreciating that from Jeff. And, one thing that I really love about the ENTRE Institute is your education is actually taught by entrepreneurs with successful businesses. Yep. And I think that is such a key determining factor. I went to business school, sure, in college. I don't think my professors ever were in business.
Right.
Ever. They did not own a business. And I'm like, what makes you qualified to tell this? Because
not only that, they had tenure and couldn't even be fired no matter how bad they were at their jobs.
Exactly, man. It's ludicrous. And I'll tell you what, I learned more about business in the first 6 months of my own business than I did in 4 years of business school. And I just tell people, do not go to college and expecting to learn. And I know your whole thing is you want to deliver more value than an MBA in even just one of your YouTube videos, which I was watching one of them. I'm like, this is actually doing just that. So you guys have to check this out. The entreinstitute.com. I mean, and the fact that you guys are serving so many students is just obvious, like there's something here. Talk to us just about that process. And if someone is interested, like what does that enrollment process look like?
Yeah. So let me kind of drill into those numbers a little bit. So when I say we've had, 270,000 students, and I don't know what the exact number is today, but it's something like that. That's people that have bought any sort of course, right? So we have like 39, kind of our most popular course. It's the starting point for everyone right now. Is called Success Path Masterclass, and it's basically like a fundamentals 101 about modern entrepreneurship. Like, what does it mean? What does it really mean to be an entrepreneur? Like, again, people think that an entrepreneur today is the guy on the cover of Entrepreneur Magazine or Fast Company Magazine. That's like a 1 in a million entrepreneur. Yeah. That's some 20-year-old kid that had the right life circumstances and the right idea and, took some coding in high school and, the classic, lived on ramen for 2 years and built an app and sold it for $1 billion. Like, they don't put your average, call it mom and pop entrepreneur on the cover of a magazine. I remember reading a book called The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas Stanley. He's an economist. And in The Millionaire Next Door, he talked about being surprised to discover that he broke down neighborhoods, right? But basically the vast majority of millionaires in most nice neighborhoods are actually like, it's not your doctors and your lawyers and your high-end service professionals. It's your plumbers and your electricians and your business owners, right? And granted, this book's over 20 years old now, but he was like surprised to discover that. And I was like, how are you an economist and you're surprised to discover that? Like, businesses are assets. Like houses and cars and frankly, office leases and law practices and doctors' offices and equipment, those are all liabilities. Those people aren't millionaires. They may have good incomes, but most of them are, whatever, I don't want to stereotype, but it's whatever they do with that income that has the potential to turn them into a millionaire. Business owners, your average plumber, a guy who owns a plumbing business, first of all, he might have started it at 19 or 20. He got a 2 to 4 year to 5 year to 10 year jump on everybody else in terms of building an asset. 10 years later, he's got $1 million plumbing business that he can borrow money against. Banks will give him money for it. He doesn't have to pay them, right? And so anyway, my point is, we have this Fundamentals 101 course. It only takes like 3 hours. And it's just like a blitz of new information and eye-opening revelation of like all the stuff that they should have taught you in school, but they didn't. And we also introduce people to our frameworks. One of the things I was really committed to with Entre is like, I've been an entrepreneur for 26 years. 27 years. I'm 43. I started when I was 16. Most people don't have 27 years to figure it out, right? So what I try to do is distill everything that I've experienced into frameworks that anybody, whether they're ready to really commit to entrepreneurship or not, anybody can install these entrepreneurial frameworks into their life to improve themselves. We have a concept called the 3 Ps and the 4th P: physical, personal, and professional. There's frameworks you can install in your life to optimize your time, change your priorities, simplify your focus, and level yourself up physically, personally, and professionally, ultimately in pursuit of the 4th P, which is your purpose, which, to my point about fulfillment, you don't get to choose. It chooses you. You just have to create enough stillness and consistency in your life to get clear on what it is. And that's really what Entre is it's a process that uses entrepreneurialism, which I differentiate from entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is a thing that you do. Entrepreneurialism is a way that you are, or a set of beliefs or practices that you can sort of inhabit. And it uses entrepreneurialism as a way to start to wake up to your true purpose in life and also be leveling up all areas of your life in the meantime. And that's basically what the $39 and the $39 course covers that. And then it shows people examples, like real application examples of how modern digitized entrepreneurship shows up in the modern world. And we kind of have 3 business models that we initially show people of, like, these are examples of how it can look. And then the 3 that we show in the Success Path Masterclass are affiliate marketing, the knowledge business and a digital agency business. We also have like a virtual sales path, and we have some other paths and stuff. But the point isn't to say this is what you must do. The point is just to show you what it can look like. And then we have something called your success DNA, which is actually an assessment. We have a PhD organizational psychologist on staff that we worked with, and we had, thousands of, we created the success DNA assessment after we'd already had over 100,000 students. So we had all this data, and we brought in an organizational psychologist and statistician, and we parsed all this data, and we figured out, okay, what are the personal traits that correspond to success in different paths of entrepreneurship? And we actually will, as part of the Success Path Masterclass, you take a success DNA assessment that'll actually give you weighted recommendations of what type of entrepreneurship you're most likely to find not just material success with, but also fulfillment and alignment, right? And then, and that's the entry, that's the entry level program. We've had over 250,000 people go through it. And then from there, we have various levels of going deeper. Like you said, curriculum where you can learn from actual successful, multimillionaire practitioners of whatever that path is. We have coaching. We have live personal growth and development events. We have we tried to create an all-inclusive ecosystem. Think of who's our competition out there, right? Let's say, Grant Cardone, ClickFunnels, Robert Kiyosaki, Tony Robbins, heck, even Oprah Winfrey on some of the self-love stuff. Like, there's kind of this cobbled together environment out there, Gary Vee, where you can get pieces of what you need from all these places. But to create one holistic, comprehensive entrepreneurial development ecosystem where a person can come completely transform every area of their life in a way that is only uniquely possible with an entrepreneurial way of being. That's Entre. So even the software, even like your funnel builder and your CRM and your marketing software, like it's all baked into one membership.
Oh, wow.
And so you get personal growth, you get professional growth, you get entrepreneurial mentorship, you get software, you get anything you can come up with that you need. You name it, we've got it. And if we don't have it, tell us and we'll install it, because we don't want you to do it.
Bam. I mean, that is some powerful stuff right there, Jeff. I got to say, I got to get in there. I'm going to have to enroll myself and my team in this, because
I'll be honest with you about what we're trying to do. It's not really it's not even just produce a bunch of entrepreneurs. Like, one of the books that affected me most profoundly in my life was Plato's Republic. I read it in my 20s. And when Plato gets into his model for education for an ideal society, it really resonated with me about, okay, this is why I was so unhappy in school. This is why I dropped out when I was 16. This is what education really ought to be. It's mapping people to their strengths and developing them holistically, what we call physically, personally, professionally, the 3 Ps. And then ultimately believing that people are teleological beings. We're created with a purpose, and that when you find it, you can be fulfilled for the rest of your life. That's what education is supposed to be, not this bullshit that we call a school system. And I'm trying to be the tip of the spear of new education for a new world. And frankly, as a business model, I had to start with adults, because adults have already been unhappily employed long enough to have the money to buy programs that want to change their life. But who I'm really concerned about is kids. I want to turn the education system over. Yeah. I want to, proverbially turn the tables over in the temple. But to get to the kid, and we actually have beta programs going now. We started a year ago programs at 2 high schools, one in New York, one in California. We have a meeting with a major U.S. city school district next month to talk about rolling out our integrate curriculum, is what we call our curriculum for high schoolers, to talk about rolling it out across the school district. That's actually what I'm really after. But if I can help millions of adults transform their lives and in so doing, have the war chest to go make the change I want to have, rather than having to go raise venture capital, because VCs, they're not gonna give me money to go disrupt the school system. So it's all kind of a longer game business model. This is why I have to live to be 120. It's gonna take me 50 years to do what I want to do, and I'm 43. I started too late.
I don't know, man. You sound like you're well on the way, and it's impressive, and I'm inspired by it. I know just from my own journey with the Happy Hustle, like I have similar goals to infuse my proprietary soul mapping system into the school system, because I didn't learn shit really when I think back on, like, I learned how to like remember things for tests or cheat,
right,
which I was really good at. And, that's not something I'm proud of, by the way, but it is, you do what you got to do. And I think, a system like this with the ENTRE Institute, where it's all in one place holistically, it's not piecemeal together. Cause like, as you mentioned, a lot of this stuff on the internet, sure, you can find some of this, but again, the sequencing is what's imperative when you're building a business, when you're building yourself, when you talk about the 3 Ps, physical, personal, professional. You didn't mention purpose until after you get those 3 Ps together. Again,
yes,
the sequencing
exactly.
is so monumental.
That's what I mean. They want their best life, but they're not bringing their best self to go out and find it.
Yeah. I mean, you're so right, and we're very aligned in terms of like your lofty goal to really change the paradigm in the education world. I love this. I think, more entrepreneurs should find out about it and really dive into it, as well as aspiring entrepreneurs and people who are just, again, going back to that term, unfulfilled. Like if you feel like you're destined for more, this could be the answer. Where can people go to learn more about this? And even you too. I know you have an awesome book out. Where can people go to pick up a copy? Is it best just to go to your website, or what do you recommend?
Just go to Amazon. It's fine. I mean, the book's available wherever books are sold. It's called Unlock Your Potential. And I really do. Yeah, I recommend. I mean, I think there's 2 places to start. Look, if you're somebody that'll actually read a book, not just buy a book, but read it, which is, I think it's a single digit percentile of people that buy books actually read them.
True.
If you're someone that'll read it,
yeah,
then buy it. If you're not, don't buy it. Just go to my YouTube channel. And at YouTube, watch it, in either way, either place. I mean, the book goes as deep as I could go. I mean, the publisher wanted 40,000 words, and I gave him 140,000 words. And I explain, the interplay of the education system, the employment system, and the retirement system, and why the vast majority of people are never going to be able to retire in the world that we live in, and what to do about it, and how to, the frameworks to become your best self so that you are able. One of the hard things that people have to accept is that we're not going to save everybody. Like, everybody isn't going to be willing to do what it takes. We could save anybody, but we're not going to save everybody. And the book will really help you drill into yourself and go like, am I willing to do what it takes to have the life I say I want? And there's probably a level of gritty honesty in the book that you can't get through YouTube videos. But if you're not going to read the book, then go to the YouTube channel. And in either case, if you're intrigued and you're drawn toward it, both roads lead to Entre if you want to go there.
Awesome. And I mean, I just want to share this amazing tagline: the ultimate guide for creating your dream life in the modern world. And that's from his book, Unlock Your Potential. Guys, powerful stuff here. Definitely take action on, at least go check out his YouTube, Jeff Lerner on YouTube. It's worthwhile. You really put a lot of great production value with your videos too. So I think that's important to capture and keep attention. One more thing too, just on the book. Do you have an audiobook version of it? I believe you do, right?
Yeah, and I read it myself, and it's actually gotten pretty good reviews. So.
Oh, great.
The audio version.
Yeah. So if you're not like gonna sit down and read the book, just get the audio version. I'm sure it's on Audible, right?
It is.
Yeah. Okay. There you go, guys. Jeff, this has been awesome, man. I do want to put you through some of my more traditional Happy Hustle hack questions, and then the rapid fire round, and then we'll wrap this interview up.
Let's do it.
First and foremost, we're talking about health, living to 120 and beyond. I think in order to happy hustle in any capacity, you got to have your health in check. I know it's a priority for you. What would you say is something that you do, maybe a little unique that we could deem a happy hustle hack in this arena?
Yeah. So I read a book called Lifespan by David Sinclair, who's a gerontological geneticist, right? He studies the genetics of aging at Harvard. And anyway, I basically adopted his longevity regimen. And it's primarily centered around three supplements, resveratrol, which a lot of people know, but one is called NAD+, one is called NMN. And I actually get them from like a pretty high-end compounding pharmacy mail order, because you gotta concern a lot with sourcing of the supplements or the substances. I do a lot of I regulate hormones. You know, I basically take really good care of myself. It's like, I don't know how else to say it. Just like care as much about yourself as your boss wants to about your job. Like your boss wants you to about your job, right? Like just care that much about yourself. Anyway, so I think I'm supposed to be giving rapid fire answers. So that's what I'll say is I read Lifespan and I did everything he does.
There you go. Love it. Yeah, the rapid fire round hasn't started yet, but
okay.
I do like the brevity regardless. Those are powerful. The NMN, NAD+. I used to run a biohacking company, so I'm big into all this stuff. So I know the game.
Keep that rabbit hole goes then. I mean, there's a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
Those two supplements.
Oh, yeah. We had Sinclair on our podcast back in the day. Yeah, man. Anyway, those are powerful stuff. Check out that book. Let's talk about money. I think it's important. We've talked about it, here and there, but I want to ask you, do you have a happy hustle hack when it comes to maybe saving, investing, or spending, wisely that you could share, something that you do that we could share with the happy hustlers?
Yeah. So 12 years ago now, I started doing something that's become somewhat more popular now. It was very little known then, and it's still relatively lesser known. And it's called infinite banking or self-banking, where you basically use whole life insurance policies, not so much as insurance, although they do provide that benefit, but as compound generating savings and lending vehicles where, I'll just leave it at that. Go search infinite banking. I have a video about it on my YouTube channel, but I've been doing infinite banking for 12 years and it's incredible. And anybody that tells you something bad about it has not done it and is working from Susie Orman, Dave Ramsey talking points. And it's an unsophisticated understanding of what it is, because from somebody that has 6 policies and has been doing it for 12 years to the tune of millions of dollars, I'm telling you, it's badass.
Oh, yeah. Well, and my good buddy, Garrett Gunderson, was on the show. Do you know Garrett?
Oh, yeah, I know Garrett. Wealth Factory, yeah.
Yeah.
He's all about it.
Yeah, so Garrett's my bro. Oh, he's got 28 policies, man.
Oh, dang,
Yeah. No, I also have policies, so I'm in the game and I'm about it, and I love that you mentioned that. So check it out, guys. Infinite Banking. Check out Jeff's video. Now, I do want to ask you in the relationship realm. I know this is a very important piece to happiness, right? And I know you have an amazing wife and 4 kids, and you prioritize this area. Do you have a happy hustle hack when it comes to your relationship with your spouse that you could share with the happy hustlers?
Yeah, there's 2 quotes that I literally find cause to remember every single day, not just in my marriage, but in all significant relationships. One is, I think it's Harville Hendricks said, you have to choose. Would you rather be right or be close? And my wife and I, she's a firstborn, I'm an only child. So we both came into it with a lot of needing to be right. And we've learned that being close is a lot more rewarding. And the other is by a guy named John Gottman, who runs the Love Lab at Washington University.
Yeah, I know him.
John, yeah, he's amazing. I'm actually trying to get him on my podcast right now. I don't know if he still does podcasts. He's older. But he said, if you want to have influence over another person, he said the best way to have influence over another person is for them to feel like they have influence over you. And so this ties in with entrepreneurship. If you think about what value exchange is, that same thing. You want to have influence over your customer. Give value first. And they feel like that's that feeling. They feel I'm having influence over you. Hey, this guy felt my need and he responded by giving me value to address what I needed. You now have influence. You've earned influence over them to say, okay, I'd like to make you an offer, But
it works I love it, man. Steph and I.
Yeah, go ahead.
So well said. No, Steph and I did a weekend workshop with Dr. John and Julie, my wife. So yeah, I'm very familiar with their work. And I love that first quote, man. Wow, powerful. All right, let's talk about spirituality in terms of wrapping up this Happy Hustle Hack section. Do you have a spiritual practice or something that you do, maybe to connect to a higher power? I mean, for me, I'm a big believer in God, and I think it's so important to have faith in something bigger than yourself. I don't really care if the Happy Hustlers believe in one religion or another. I just think it's important to have that faith. Do you have something that connects you to a higher power, Jeff, that you could share as a Happy Hustle hack?
Yeah. So for me, it's all very wrapped together. The spirituality, the fulfillment of the clarity of purpose. For me, and I also, I'm big on words. So if you look up the word religion, the root word of religion is actually bondage. So think of like a ligature, L-I-G, religion, bondage, ligature that you tie somebody's wrists with. Religion is about tying you up. And so I eschew religion pretty strongly. I'll just declare it right now. I've not found a codified spiritual practice that is followed dogmatically by a large number of people that feels like anything to me other than a cage. But I'm deeply, first of all, I do consider myself a Christian. I am deep in the belief that there was some sort of spiritual transaction that occurred through a human. It had to be through a human. That's the only way it could have been a bona fide transaction that absolved us of our lesser nature and created even the possibility of a lot of what I'm talking about, which is to live a life of disciplined rejection of our lesser self. Somebody had to create that precedent, if only as something to aspire to. Somebody had to set that standard so that we could try to place ourselves on it. And I live a deeply spiritual life through crystal clarity of my personal mission statement in this world. One of the things I talk about in my book is the necessity to have a mission statement for our entire life, not just for our business. And mine is, and I have a formula of how you can assemble one that gives maximum impact. I've tried lots of different formulas. And ultimately, my personal mission statement is demonstrating daily that we were created to pursue excellence and act with courage. And so that idea of us as created beings with preset intention to pursue excellence and act with courage, for me, that is the essence of my spirituality. But I'll also say that until somebody really puts their spirituality into a finite, discrete, repeatable set of words, I think to a certain degree, we're kind of kidding ourselves, acting like we're spirit, because in the absence of definition and precision, then spirituality is really about how we feel. And that's pretty fickle.
Yeah. Well said. I wholeheartely, agree with you. I mean, my dad technically is Catholic. My mom's technically Jewish. I'm like this religious mutt, but I haven't found one religion to really adhere to my overall spirituality. So I believe, I pray every day. I'm very spiritual, but I'm definitely not religious. So I amen to that, brother. All right, man, this was awesome. I'm super fired up for the Happy Hustlers. I do want to put you through the rapid fire round, and we'll wrap this up. This is where I ask you just random things, and you answer honestly first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready, Jeff?
I'm ready.
All right. Favorite food? Go.
Sushi.
Favorite movie?
Bottle Rocket. It was Wes Anderson's first movie.
Nice. Favorite workout?
A lot of stretching.
There you go. Stretching every day adds 7 years to your life, if you didn't know that. Yeah. Best business advice?
Let go of expectations or the need to control timelines.
What's your spirit animal?
Wolf.
3 things you're most grateful for?
My wife, my kids, and the fact that I've reached a place in my life where I can put myself on that list.
And if you had a billboard for the world to see with your last piece of content on it, Jeff, what's that billboard read?
It wouldn't be mine. It would be Jim Rohn saying, "Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better."
Love it. Approach that rapid fire round, man. And Jeff, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you, brother, for sharing your love, your light, your wisdom with myself and the Happy Hustlers. This has been phenomenal. And I just appreciate you being vulnerable, sharing yourself unapologetically and your journey, because I know I've learned a lot from it. I'm inspired by it. And I know the Happy Hustlers will be as well. And just what you're creating with the Entre movement, I respect it. And any way I can be of service to you from now and into the future, I'm here for you, man. So thank you again.
Thanks so much. It's been a blast. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm grateful to the audience for giving us their time.
Yeah, man. Final call to action before I ask you the last question. What you got for the Happy Hustlers?
Again, if you'll read or listen to the book, get it. And if you prefer video, shorter sound bites, then my YouTube channel. And if nothing else, let it wash over you. Life isn't all fun and games. It's not supposed to be.
All right, man. Last question, Jeff. What does happy hustling mean to you?
Feeling like there's a point to me.
Mic drop. Jeff Lerner, y'all. Thank you so much for watching and listening. We are out. Peace and love, everyone.